Just wanted to ask if everybody can see my screen okay. You should be seeing a slide that says Google Apps for Business, and then beneath it, GA 120 Drive and Docs Collaboration. If you can see that, could you please raise your hand using the GoToWebinar interface? Awesome, thanks a lot. Very good response. So I'm going to go ahead and lower your hands, and we will get rolling. You're going to see me probably fiddling around on the right-hand side of the screen during the class today. That's just me checking out the GoToWebinar control panel and seeing if you guys have any questions. So if you do have questions as we go along today, please feel free to type them in the chat window, and I will stop like every 15 minutes or so just to see if there have been any questions, and I think we'll be able to get everything answered. All right, so I'm going to minimize the panel and we will get started. Okay, cool. All right, so just like yesterday when we did the Gmail training, I'm going to talk just a bit about the top of the screen, and then we'll go into the drive specifically. So just to begin with, as a reminder from yesterday, I'm using a Mac for today's class, but I don't want you to feel at all put off by that because Google Apps works equally well in Windows, Mac operating system, and also on Chromebooks. So any of those will work just fine. It'll look exactly the same and work exactly the same. I'm also using the Chrome web browser. As I mentioned yesterday, there are a few advantages to using Chrome, and one of those is sort of self-explanatory, that since Chrome is produced by Google and Google Apps, of course, are produced by Google, the compatibility is pretty much assured. Now, if you're used to using Internet Explorer or Firefox, you can certainly continue to use those without any problem. I just wanted to let you know that we do recommend that you use Chrome. And another reason why you might want to use Chrome is that there are really cool extensions that you can get, and add-on programs as well that are specifically made to work with Chrome, that will improve your experience in using Google Apps and give you a lot of additional options as well. So having said all that, as I said just before, feel free to use whatever web browser you like, as long as it's one of the standard ones like Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari. You should be just fine. So no worries. All right, so this is your Google Drive. So Google Drive is a cloud storage system. If you've used Dropbox or Box.com, this is very similar to that. You have, as part of your educational account, you have unlimited storage. So you can store as much stuff as you like without needing to worry about any kind of quota. And you can also access your files from anywhere. Because this is a cloud service, Google maintains sort of vast server farms throughout the country and around the world. So you can always access your data as long as you've got an internet connection and you're using a device that's capable of manipulating the files that you get. So any smartphone will work, tablet or laptop computer. As long as you've got a good internet connection, you are in great shape. Okay, so having said that, let's start over here in the left-hand corner again. This time we have the MPC logo. And actually, I'm using an account that's created in this domain, which is why I can now see this logo. In yesterday's training, I had a test account up that simply had the Google logo on the top. This is just a really good way of knowing which account you're in, especially if you've got multiple accounts. Now, you may have a number of accounts within the MPC domain. For example, if you were an administrator, you may have access to an administrative account, and then you may also have your regular work account. And then many of us also have personal accounts. So it's always a good idea to check this out just to know where you are, because the interface is exactly the same in every account, unless you customize it with a theme or something like that in the background. All right, moving on from there, we have the Google search bar. This uses much of the same technology that is used to power Google's search engine. So it's a really powerful search. It can get you through all of your files and folders. And it also allows you some customizable search fields. So if I click on this down arrow, again from the last class, whenever you see a down arrow, it always means that there are cool things there. So I'll click the down arrow, and you'll see that you can do searches by particular file types, searches for files that open with a particular program, and then you can also search by ownership. And one of the things that we're going to discuss today is how you share files. Um, you may actually have access to many other files besides the ones that you created, because people can share access share access to their files with you. And we're going to see that in just a bit, that you may have files in your drive that are actually owned by somebody else. And they'll show up as files or folders within your drive, even though you may only have editing permission on those. So we'll get into that in a little more depth in just a minute. I'm going to move away from this and continue along the top of the screen. Again, this is the Google Apps search grid. If I click on this, I can get to any of my apps, and this is actually the best way of getting into Google Apps. It's certainly the most sure way of getting into them because, for example, Groups. Groups is sort of like an unsung hero of Google Apps. That it's actually quite powerful, but it's not used a whole lot. It's certainly not used to its potential in many cases. The trick is with this, though, is that this is the very best way of getting into these apps rather than typing in their URL at the top, such as drive.google.com. That would get you into your MPC account, but typing in, for example, groups.google.com would get you into the global page for Google Groups, where you can search any public group. So it's actually better to click on the icon itself because that will definitely take you into your MPC apps. Okay, so moving on from there, we have your icon. In this case, this is for the test account that I'm using today, but you can add additional accounts that you can access as well. So if you wanted to add your personal account, you could click Add Account and then enter your username and password. And then once you've done that, that account would then be accessible simply by scrolling down. It would show up below this account, and you could toggle between these accounts. Actually, let's just do that quickly so you can see what I mean. And we'll enter my work account. And my password should autofill. I'm using LastPass as a password management tool, which is why my password was just filled in there. And I'll click sign in. Okay, and now I can move between my accounts one of two ways. I can either click on the tab that was just opened. You'll see that whenever you open up a new, access a new account, it will open up in a brand new tab. So I could toggle back and forth between the MPC account and my other account. But I just wanted to show you that now when okay, for some reason it's not showing up. Let me do this again. Okay, so from here I could click, there we go. I can click on my icon and then choose this other account. So I can toggle back and forth. But notice that every time I do this, it's opening up a brand new tab at the top of the screen. So this is why it can get a little bit confusing if you're not kind of paying close attention to the account that's open. So I can click on my other account again, and now a fourth tab will open up. these are all simply views into the same places. So let me close some of these down. And I think this one as well. All right, cool. So this same top banner will appear in all Google Apps, and I mentioned that in the Gmail training. So once you are familiar with this and how it works, you'll be able to navigate the rest of Google Apps quite easily. All right, so we were talking about cloud storage, and I also wanted to say something else about your data. So storing your data in the cloud is, especially in Google Drive, is extremely safe. They take a lot of measures to protect your information, and all of it happens behind the scenes. So you actually can simply open up a new document or click on a file or something, and a lot of stuff happens in the background that you're not actually seeing. And one of those things is that your data is backed up in a number of different server farms. So it's not all stored in the exact same place at the exact same time. They call this sharding of information, the sharding of your data. It's like, think about your data as being a crystal, and it breaks into shards, and those shards are stored in various different locations, and they're pulled back together when you need that data, which is really cool because if, for example, you weren't able to access a particular server that had part of your data, it can be reassembled from other locations that have that data as well. So that's really cool. Plus, your data is all encrypted when it's stored in Google Drive. So that's another thing that's really cool about it, and another way that they protect your information. All right, so from there, we're going to go down and start talking about the root of the drive. So I'll just go right into the, basically the root of your drive is this my drive directory. You can see here that as I scroll across the top, I have 4 icons available to me. The first is will allow me to change the view of my drive. So I can click here and move into grid view, which basically gives me thumbnails of these files. Or I can go back into list view, which actually I usually prefer because it gives me a little bit more information. And if I squint, I can actually sort of see the thumbnails of some of these. Like, I know this is a picture of some orchids from my backyard. And down here I can tell that this is a video. I can also tell that this blue square, once I get used to using Drive, is a Google Docs file. And then this green box indicates that this is a Google Sheets file, so a spreadsheet file. So that's some ways of being able to kind of tell the difference. If you view things in list view, you can get a little bit of additional information. You can tell that who owns particular files. In this case, these are all owned by me. And I can also tell from just looking at the way that this is laid out, I can see that there's this image of these 2 people standing next to each other. I think about these icons as kind of looking a little bit like Lego characters. So the 2 Legos are here. I can tell that this document has been shared because there's this image of this icon of the 2 people here. All right, so another thing that I can tell from here is, for some of these files at least, I can read the file size of them. So in this case, this is a 266 megabyte file. It's a video file, so quite large. But this also kind of illustrates the fact that you can store all sorts of different files of all sorts of different sizes in your drive. In this case, this is a large video file. I can store many of these large video files here and then access them whenever I need them and from wherever I need them. Okay, but you'll also note something else, is that only 2 of these files actually have a file size listed for them. That's because when you're working in Google Drive, any native Google Doc or Google Apps formatted file do not count against your storage quota. And you don't actually have a storage quota, but they don't count that as having a file size. This is really good to know if you're using your personal Gmail account, because there you would have a file size limit, or excuse me, a storage limit, and converting your files into Google Docs format is a really good idea, because then you don't have to worry about a file size anymore. If it's a native file, it doesn't count as having a file size. All right, moving on from the list, we can also sort here. We can sort alphabetically by name. We can also sort by the last modified file. So I can click on that and it will rearrange things into the last modified. And you'll note something here as we're doing this, and that is that folders are always represented first and then files show up. So if I go back into an alphabetical view by name, click that guy, you'll note that these are in alphabetical order, but folders always come first and then files. And then within that, numbered files will become before alphabetized files. So just so you note that. All right, so there are a couple other options we can check out here. Last modified by me and last opened by me. But I'm going to move beyond that and go into view details. Currently, you can see an activity list of things that have happened in my directory inside of my drive. And I can also see details of particular things. But you'll note that I actually have to select a particular folder or file before I can see any details about it. They don't give me details about my drive itself. All right, I will go ahead and close this. And then there's the settings button. The settings button, just like in Gmail, is represented by this gear icon. If I click on settings, I have a couple of choices here. The first thing is to go into the settings menu, and it's actually, there aren't very many settings options, so we'll go through those in just a moment. I can also get my keyboard shortcuts here. If we click on this, it will bring up a list of available keyboard shortcuts. I love keyboard shortcuts, so this is really, really cool that they give you this list that you can refer to. All right, I'm going to close this guy, and then we're going to go into the settings menu. So I'll click the settings button, and then I'll click settings again. And then you can see a few things here. The first thing is you can see the amount of storage you're using. Again, because you have an unlimited account, this really doesn't matter too much, but it's still kind of handy. You can click to view details, and it will bring you into a web page describing, kind of breaking down your storage. And this little happy guy is thrilled because he's got unlimited storage at MPC. All right, I'll go ahead and close this tab. Now here's an interesting choice. You can click this box if you want to convert uploaded files into Google Docs editor format. I actually have this selected on my account because I use Google Apps for pretty much everything at this point. I very, very rarely will use Microsoft Office. It seems like really the only time that I'm using Microsoft Office at this point is creating sample files for training purposes. But there are people in my office who do use it all the time, and I'm a big proponent of just using the best tool for the job. So, you know, if there are many people that work in my office that are big fans of Microsoft Excel, and they've got pretty complicated formulas that they use in their spreadsheets, and so they need to be able to refer back to Excel and use it for opening files. I actually don't need that level of power. For me, my spreadsheets, although I use spreadsheets every day, they're not overly complicated, so it's much easier actually for me to use them in Google format as Google Sheets than it would be for me to use an Excel file. So I actually have this checked. So whenever I store a file here, it will automatically convert it. Now, when I have a file converted, it does not delete the original file. So if I store an Excel file, for example, in my Google Drive, and I have this checkbox, I'll wind up with two files. I'll have the original Excel file, and then I'll have the file that's been converted into Google Sheets format. All right, you can change your language settings from here. You can also change your display density just like you could in Gmail. So in this case, I'll choose compact, and you'll see behind this in the grayed area that my the space between my files and folders has shrunk a bit. Okay, so I'm going to switch this back to comfortable to make it a bit easier to read. Okay, um, great. So now we're going to go into Manage Apps. There is one last choice here to create a Google Photos folder. You can do that if you want. It doesn't really matter though. It's just a way of sort of organizing your photos. And actually, this is more significant in a personal account because where there's a quota attached to it, if I choose to use Google Photos to store my files, I can store an unlimited number of photos in this directory, which kind of goes to show you that storage is really inexpensive right now. And also that this is just, I think, a nice gesture that Google's made to get people interested in using Google Drive. All right, so now I'm going to click on Manage Apps. So there are a number of apps that you can use. I use these by default for word processing. I also have it set to be my default for Sheets and a number of these other apps. So whenever I open up a spreadsheet, if it's, for example, an Excel file, it will open up in Google Sheets when I have it saved in my drive. So I'll go ahead and close this. You can save any kind of file you want here. There may be some times when you save a file here and you can't open it because you don't have a compatible program that will allow you to open it, but that's the same really in any kind of storage system. Really, the sky's the limit. Now, the downside to this is that there isn't really great document management control inside of Google Drive. And you can see an example of this right here. I created these two Google Docs. These are two files. And I named them, I actually didn't name them. I didn't follow my number one best practice, which is always to name your files when you create them. In this case, I did not name them. And you can see that they're very, very similar. In fact, if I were to go to grid view to look at their thumbnails, they're both have like one sentence in them. They're both very short. So I can't really tell the difference between them. Instead of some file systems, which would put like a number behind the name if I hadn't named it, just to be able to distinguish these somehow, Google Drive doesn't do that. So you could have 100 documents that were all untitled, and telling the difference between them can be a little bit tricky. So I always suggest that you name your file, and if you notice one that's in your directory that is not named, you can quickly name them by right-clicking on the name of the file and then choosing Rename. And we'll call this Dave's second document. Okay, and I'll hit OK. All right. So now that I've selected a file, I have a number of other options that appear up here. When I don't have a file selected, I only had these four icons, and now that I'm clicking on a file, I have more options available to me. Before I get into these options, let me just stop for a minute to see if anybody has any questions. Okay, here is here is a good question, and I actually don't have an answer to it, but it's worth bringing up. I was looking at settings for my personal Google account and comparing them to the MPC Google Drive account. My personal account has a setting that enables me to sync so that I can work offline. There is no such setting in the MPC Google Drive settings, and why is that? Actually, I'm not sure the answer to that. That would probably be a decision that was made on an administrative level. But I can inquire into seeing if that was an intentional thing or if that was just a setting that was turned on inside of the control panel and maybe needs to be adjusted. But I do know what you're talking about, and I noticed that as well. So, so I'll go back in and I'll find out an answer for that. Okay, and I will write back. And in fact, I'll include an answer in the FAQs in the Going Google site, so that so that that's stated. Thanks for that question, though. I appreciate it. All right, so continuing on. Now we're going to get into the power of Google Drive for collaboration because we'll be able to share our files with other people. But before I click into these icons at the top, let me go over here to the left-hand side of the screen and kind of explain what's going on over there. The first item that we have is the New button. If I click on New, I'll get a few options here. The first is that I can create a new folder. So I can add a third folder to the folders that are represented here. I can upload a file, and I can also upload an entire folder of files. And actually, I'm going to do the file upload right now. And to do that, I've created two documents that I have on my desktop. So I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit. And let me close this window as well. And this one. Cool. All right. So I have an Excel file here, and I also have a Microsoft Word file as well. I'm going to move these one at a time into my Google Drive. Now I can do that by clicking New and choosing File Upload. And I'll go to my desktop, and yep, I think I'm going to upload this very small Word document. So I will, let's see, I'll choose this and I will click Open. And this will upload it into my Google Drive. Okay, so now we see that we have the Today is Friday document. And we also have an Excel file here. And in this case, I'm actually just going to drag it and drop it into my drive. And there we go. Okay, so now these two files have been uploaded. I'm going to rearrange these, and I'll do this by the last modified date. And again, the folders are coming first and then the files. Well, let's switch it back to alphabetical order. All right, so now we're going to look at shared items that are shared with me. If I click on Shared with Me, you'll see that I actually have a number of files that have been shared. These were shared by John Lawler, and I actually would like to be able to work with these files. I can open them directly from here, and I can see, get my editing, check out my editing abilities and things like that. But I can also move them into my drive. And when I do that, I'm actually not altering the file in any way. It's still going to be completely accessible by John and everyone else that has access to the file. This is just handy for me so that I can organize the files that I'm working with. So I've just sort of dragged and dropped this in. And I'll go ahead and close this guy. And let me do the same thing with this file. Just kind of drag and drop it in. Okay. Interesting. It's sort of just hanging out there in the air. Let me just refresh my drive. Maybe that will get rid of it. Okay. Cool. So, so I've moved these two files into my drive, and you can see that the owner is John Lawler. It's not me. But I do have editing access to these files to some degree. You can also see that these are shared files because of this Lego people icon over here at the side. All right, so shared with me, again, these are files that I have some kind of access to, whether it's view only or comment only, or I've got the ability to edit these files. I have some access to them. Google Photos, we talked about before. This is just where you can store your photos if you'd like, but you don't have to store them here. You can just keep them in your drive if you want. Recent would be files that you have worked on recently and in the order that they've been worked on. And this is really handy because often, it's difficult to kind of remember which file you worked on the last time. Just clicking recent is a good idea. Starred, you'll notice that when I click on this, I have no starred files or folders. Starred is just a visual cue that this is an important file. So I'm going to go back into my drive and I'm going to star a couple of these. I'll star this photo And to do that, I just right-click on it, and then I'll choose Add Star. So you can see there's now this little star out here. And I will do that for this one as well. So right-click on it and choose Add Star. All right, now when I click on Starred, you'll see that these two files will appear. And you can do this with folders as well. You can star folders. Now I'm going to go into my trash. And I don't have any items in trash, so I'll put one in there just to demonstrate. Let's choose this one. I'll click on this guy, and I'll move it to the trash by clicking on the remove button, this trash can icon on the top. And now this has been moved into my trash. Now the difference between the trash here in Google Drive and sending an email to the trash inside of Gmail is that in Gmail, your trash is deleted after 30 days. So when you put an email in the trash, it will sit there for 30 days and then it will be automatically deleted unless you permanently delete it first. Inside of the trash in Google Drive, it's different. Files that you put in the trash will stay here until you delete them. So you can keep them in here for years. I don't suggest it, but you could do that. They're not automatically deleted. Now you'll notice when I select this file, I get these two additional options. I can either restore the file, which will send it back into where it was before, into my drive, or I can choose delete forever. And I'll go ahead and choose delete forever. Then it brings up this thing saying this is going to be gone forever and you can't undo it. But I'll go ahead and click delete forever, and now it's gone. Okay, the other thing that you can do from the new button is you can actually start a new file by choosing one of the available Google apps. So in this case, Google Docs, which is the equivalent to Microsoft Word, Google Sheets, which is the equivalent to Microsoft Excel, Google Slides, which is very similar to PowerPoint. And then if I scroll over more here, I have a couple other options. Google Forms is a really cool program. It is similar in a lot of ways to, there really isn't a great equivalent to this. SurveyMonkey might be the closest equivalent. It will allow you to create a web form that people can fill out online, and the results of that form will automatically generate and populate a Google Sheet. So the data that you get from this form, from your survey, will automatically be fed into Google Sheets, and then you can run all sorts of statistics on this, generate charts, all sorts of really cool stuff. So I encourage you to check this out. I don't think we'll talk and touch on this. We may at the very end of the class today. I just want you to know that it's here and that it's super cool. All right, Google Drawings, the closest equivalent to this would be like Microsoft Visio. Okay, and then Google My Maps, I have never used, so I should probably tinker with this one. I do love Google Maps, so I'll check this out. And then you can connect more apps, and if I click on this, it will bring me into sort of the app store essentially. Many of these are free, and I would encourage you to check some of these out because there are all sorts of really great stuff that you can do with these. You can create online quizzes with them. Lucidchart will let you create, do like diagramming. There's all sorts of really great stuff, and much of it is free. So I would encourage you to check this out. All right, we'll close this guy. But also notice something else. Let me go back into the root of my drive. I can create all of these from the new button, but I could also do it from the My Drive button. All of the exact same options are replicated here as well. So there's always more than one way of doing anything in Google Drive and in Google Apps for that matter. All right, so now I'm going to talk about sharing. Sorry, I kind of got on a bit of a tangent there, but I wanted to make sure you understood these options over here. Click away from this, and we will choose a file to share. All right, so I will share, let me pick this. Today is Friday document. All right. So if I want to share this file, all I have to do is select it, and then up here at the top, I have some options. And the first option is I can get a link to the file. If I click on this, it will automatically generate a link to this file, And remember, since we're working in Google Drive and we're working in the cloud, um, anytime that you share anything or you access anything, you're actually accessing it from a website. So there's a URL representing this link or this file. So if I want to share this file with somebody else, I can just copy and paste this link and send it to them. The problem is that I have to make sure that I have allowed them to see this file. So to do that, I can click on Sharing Settings. And if I click on Sharing Settings, it will open up this Share with Others box. And I can type somebody's name or email address in here. So I could type in Kristen's email address, and I can share this with her. Now, when I share this with her, I can type a little note in here saying, hey, Kristen, please help me with this document, thanks. And then I can click Send, and this will send out to her. But I can also, before I do that, click the Edit button here, and then I can set her ability to edit the file. Either she can edit it, she can comment on it, or she can simply view it. So this is all really cool. But let me show you something else that's even cooler. Down here, there's this link for Advanced. This is actually the Sharing Settings panel. And there's a lot of stuff that you can do within this panel. But I'm not going to do any of these things. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this out because I want you to see, just remember this Sharing Settings window. I'm going to cancel out, done. And then I'm going to go into the Sharing Settings icon. If I click on this, it opens up that same window that I had before. And if I click on Advanced, I can get back into that Sharing Settings window. So there were two ways of getting into this place. And notice that the shareable link is also presented here as well. All right, so this Sharing Settings page is probably the most powerful page within Google Drive. Because you can set your global settings and also your personal settings. If I click here, for example, and click Change, this is the link sharing on a global level. And currently it's tuned way down to only allow this file to be shared with specific people. I could choose this option at the very top, which is the broadest option possible. I can set this so that anybody who types a search in Google, for example, can find this file. Anyone in the world on the internet can get this file. And then I can drill down through my settings, restricting it one layer at a time. So if I chose this second option, anyone with the link can access this file. So still anybody can get in, but they have to have the exact URL and type it in. They can't just do a search and find it. Then the next level down allows anyone outside of Monterey Peninsula to be able to view the file. So that's sort of shrunk your world down to be just your organization. Then we can go another level down so that anyone with the link at Monterey can access the file. These are very similar to some of the settings that we have for sharing videos on YouTube, if you're familiar with that. So you can continue to refine access all the way down to a very granular level where only specific people can work with this file. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And we are going to name specific people. Now you'll note that in this particular account, I'm listed as Onix admin. I'm the owner of this file. So when I invite someone, for example, put in Kristen again. When I invite Kristen, she is not the owner of the file. She will only have editing privileges. I'm going to go ahead and hit send here. Okay. Now that Kristen's been added to access this file, I can change her editing ability at any time. So currently, she can edit the file. I could set it so that she could only comment or that she could only view it. But there's a fourth option now that she's been added to the list, and that is that I can make Kristen the owner of the file. And when I do, I will no longer be the owner of the file. And then she could kick me out of the file that I originally created. So this is this is pretty powerful, but it's also really good that this option exists because there will be times when you're going to want to turn control over a document file to somebody else. So, so I can select this and then she can give me the boot if she wants to. I'm going to leave it set the way that it is right now, and I want to show you something else from here. I can continue to invite additional people. I can actually share a file with up to, I believe, 200 people. So, so that a lot of folks can have access to the file. Now, up to 50 people can edit a file at the same time, but 200 people can be given access to the file. So we'll talk about the editing in just a moment, but I just wanted to bring that up. So 200 people can share a file, can have this really, really long list of specific people, and then 50 people can actually be editing the file at the exact same time. I've never actually seen this in the real world. I have seen like a dozen people editing a file at once, never 50, but someday I will actually see that, and it will be, I'm sure I'll be kind of taken aback by that. So I can invite additional people from here. And again, I can change their editing levels. Then I can do something else really interesting. I can click this box to prevent editors from changing access and adding new people. All right, so additional people can be added by your editors to make changes. So I can prevent that. But another thing that I can do is I can disable their ability to download, print, and copy for commenters and viewers. And this is really important because, well, for one thing, limiting the ability to copy a file means that you're limiting the ability for people to go in and take the file that you've given them access to and make their own version of it. So you can really lock a document way, way, way down. Now, there are ways of getting around some of these things. Obviously, they could print screen, they could do character recognition. There are a number of things that they could do, but this makes it more difficult for people to copy something that you're working on. All right, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck these guys, though, and I'll hit done. Okay, so that's sharing settings. A few other things that you can do from this top menu. You can preview a file by clicking that. I can close the box here to close this preview. But from here, I can also open a file with one of my apps, and in this case, a Google Doc. All right. And there are a few other things I can do. I can print and download, and I can share this with additional people as well. I can also pop the document out because currently I can't make any changes to it. This is just a preview of it, not an editing window. To do that, I would need to pop this file out. I would just I'd click this, basically it would open a new tab with this document in it, and I can make my changes. All right, go ahead and close this guy out. And I'll close this as well. All right, so I can preview it, I can send it to the trash. And then there are a few other options. If I click on more actions, I can move this file to a particular folder. So we'll move it up to, I don't know, we'll actually create a new folder by clicking this new folder button, and I'll call this training. Examples. Okay, I'll check, and then I'll click move. All right, and now this has been moved into the training samples folder. Cool. I can add a star. I can change the color that I use. So make this blue. And let's see, there are a few other actions as well. I can rename the file, like I did for that unnamed file before. And then I can also download the file. So I can download a copy of this file and email it to somebody else if I want to. And I'll talk about that in just a minute when we look at Google Doc and creating one. Okay, so those are the basic options here. Now I'm going to go into this document and I'm going to edit it. I'll open this guy up and I can start typing away. Now you'll note that most of the same options that you generally use in like Microsoft Word are available to you. There's a short list of fonts, but if I click more fonts, I can get like hundreds of additional fonts that for free. So don't let this throw you. There are tons more fonts out there that you can use. In this case, I'm going to choose Trebuchet because I really like it. In fact, I'm going to select this text and I'm going to change it to Trebuchet. Okay, cool. And now the rest of the document is also in this, so I can continue typing away. I can change the font size, then I can format the font the way that I want. I can insert links, change alignment, add bulleted lists, indent, all sorts of stuff that I can do from here, and all sorts of really pretty standard things that I can do. Now, there are some additional options that are super cool here. The first is that I could go into Tools. Let's see if this works today. I click on Tools, and then I can do voice typing. This is actually a pretty recent addition. So if I click on voice typing, it will bring up this, actually it will first ask me for permission to use my microphone. And once I've checked yes, it will remember that. And then the next time I open this up, it just brings up this microphone right away. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and probably the first couple words that I say will be garbled a little bit. The text will be, but it's pretty cool. So I'm beginning to type using the dictation feature inside of Google Docs. And notice how accurate it seems to be. Period. This is pretty neat. You'll notice I kind of laughed a little bit there, and it translated that as being, quote, this, period. And then I click on the microphone again to turn that off. So that's a really neat feature. And I am probably going to use that for pretty much everything that I type from now on, because I can certainly talk a lot faster than I can type. All right, another really cool tool that's in here that I've been goofing around with is the Translate Document tool. If I go down here and I choose Translate Document, I can choose whatever language I want, and there are tons of languages available. I will choose, let's see, I'll choose Spanish from here. Why not? I think I know maybe 10 words of Spanish, but I'll choose Spanish, and I'll click on Translate. And it comes with a Spanish version of my document. Now, I don't know how accurate this is. Be kind of funny to send this to my Spanish friend Gabby to see if she'll translate it for me and see what the translation actually comes out to be. But this is really cool. And when you think about the number of different languages that are represented there, it's pretty phenomenal. All right, so now we'll talk quickly about editing. Notice here on the far right side of the screen, I can click on this share button, and I can continue to add people to this document. So I could add, gosh, okay. Well, this is another thing to note. I'm going to hit done here. This actually created a copy of my original file, and my original file has been shared already with Kristen. I'm going to click done here though, and show you that when I made a copy of that file, that copy is not shared with Kristen. This is a brand new document. I'm going to go back into my Today is Friday document, and I'm going to choose, let's see, what will I do here? Okay, I'm going to write a little bit more. Okay, so I've written this in like maybe 3 different sort of spurts, okay? I'm going to go into File, and I'm going to see Revision History. When I click on that, you'll see, okay, it's broken it down into 2 basic sections. When I first created the document, and then the additional writing that I've done. Now I can revert back to an earlier version by clicking in my revision history, and I can click restore this version if I want. So it'll take me sort of back in time. I can go back into my revision history again, and I can break it down even further by clicking show more detailed revisions. And now it's broken down probably into the main sections that I typed. Yeah. So I can go all the way back to when the document was first created and restore this particular version, or I can move forward in time. So note though that this is available to everybody who has access to this file. So for example, if if Kristen comes in, she can see this revision history. If I share this document with other people after I've finished composing and editing it, they will also see this. So there is a way of getting rid of the revision history when you're ready for the document to go public so that they don't see all of this. And the way to do that is to make a copy of the document. And remember back in the sharing settings window, I could prevent people, my co-editors, from copying it. So this is something you can actually prevent other people from doing that have access to your file. When I click make a copy here, it's going to create a brand new document, and it will head it copy of today is Friday. Now I'll probably want to name it something else after that, but I'll click OK. And when I do, you'll note that if I click File Revision History, there really is no history anymore. So this is sort of a fresh, brand new document that I can share with other folks. All right, let me click back here. Let's talk quickly about a few other things under File. So there are a few other things that you can do. One of the first is that I think is really important is that you can excuse me, you can download this document as a particular file type. Note that as I'm writing this, composing this document, everything is being saved automatically in Google Drive. So if I am working on this and then I choose to I choose to share this with somebody who does not have Google Docs and only has Microsoft Office, I'm going to need to choose Download as Microsoft Word. And once I do that, it will create a copy that can be opened in Word, and I can email to somebody else if I want to. But also note that there is no save option. Anywhere you go in here, there's no save option. And typically, Download as in Microsoft Office or in other word processing suites would be named Save As. So Download As is basically the same as saying Save As. You can choose a number of different formats, including PDF files if you want. You can email your collaborators, so other people who are working on this document. You can also email the file as an attachment. When you do, it will open up this little composition window where you can save and share this file. I'll go ahead and hit cancel. All right, let me check to see if there have been any questions. All right. Okay. Well, somebody actually asked me about the making a copy of a document, and then the comments do not have it. So that is true. So the revisions and everything in the comments all go away when you create a fresh version of this. I'm not aware of any movement on Google's part to make a change to that. So that is something to note. When you make a change, when you create a copy of a document, that gets rid of not only the revision history, but it gets rid of any comments that anybody has written. And to make comments to your document, you just click this comments button here at the top. And wherever your cursor is, just click comments and then click comment again. And then you can add your comment here. All right, so let's see if there have been any others. All right, is it possible for our MPC Google administrators to change settings so that we can share a file with an individual outside of the MPC domain and also make that individual the owner of the file. So that is allowed in the default settings. I am not sure if that is allowed within the MPC domain, but we can test that actually right now. I will share this document with myself outside of your domain. So at onix.com. All right, so I'll send myself a link to the Spanish version of the file. Okay, and it said, it just gave me a warning saying that this person is outside of your organization. Are you sure? And I said, yeah. And so now this has been shared with David Genzen. So I'm going to go in to my other account, my OnixNet account, which is outside of the MPC domain, and I'll look at my email quickly because I will have a link to it at this point. So this is what happens actually when you share a file with somebody else. Okay, now I'm going to open this translated copy, and we'll open up inside of Google Docs. Now, when I go back into the version from before, actually I'll go into my drive. Okay, and here we are. This is that translated document. I'm going to go into my sharing settings, and I'm going to click on Advanced, and now we'll see, can I make myself the owner? I think it might. I'm going to save changes. If I transfer, the new owner will be notified, and the new owner can remove my access. So I'll click yes. Aha, yes, I cannot do it. So I can't transfer ownership outside of MPC, and that would be a change that would need to be made by the administration in order to enable that. So I'm going to click OK. All right, I'll cancel that guy and hit done. And we will see if there are any additional questions. All right, can we create contact groups to share documents with rather than adding them individually each time? So this should be working off of your contacts. So let's give that a shot. I'm not sure if we've got any contact groups set up though inside of this domain. Let's check quickly. Whoop, sorry, shouldn't have clicked on groups. Do this again. Click on contacts. All right. Yeah, so it might do this. Let's click a few names. We will create a new group, test, and I'll hit OK. It sometimes can take up to 20 minutes for a contact group to be propagated with inside of Google. So this might not work right away, but it's a really good question. Let's click on translated copy, share, and let's see if I can add that person. So this is not yet showing up, but that may very well be possible to do that, to invite people as a group that you created in your contacts. I'm just not sure if it is. So I'll want to check that out, but I encourage you to try it too. That would be really cool if you can do that. All right. Another question, once a file is saved as Google Docs, are you able to open the file with either Microsoft Word or Excel? So Excel and Word cannot open Google Docs. Google Docs can open Microsoft Word and Excel. So it works one way, but it doesn't work the other way back, which is why you've got to download a file as a Microsoft Word or as an Excel file. And then you can open them inside of Word and Excel. Now there is a third-party product called AO Docs that's been become very popular that does allow that to be able to move back and forth a lot easier. But yeah, that's the way you have to do it. There is this sort of extra step that you need to take to save the file as or download as actually a Word format. Okay, loss of formatting. That's a really good question too. So when you upload a file from Google and you convert it to Google Doc, the formatting is actually quite accurate now. It's getting better and better. So unless you've got very complicated formatting, you should be just fine in the conversion process. For some things, like if you have a very complicated spreadsheet, for example, you may run into some issues when you're making that transition. You may get an error message, or you may get a little warning saying, here are the following, items that aren't, translating. So there are some times when, especially with complicated spreadsheets, that the formatting isn't exact. All right. And okay. So one question is it possible for MPC administrators to change the settings so that ownership of a file can be transferred to someone outside of the MPC domain? Yes, it is possible, but that's their decision to make. It can be done certainly in the settings, but that would be something that they would have to do. All right. I think that those are all the questions you've asked, and we're at the end of the session. Thank you guys very much for attending. At the time of the global go live, and right around that time, we will have a trainer on site who will be doing a number of classes. I think it's going to be John Lawler, and he is a fantastic instructor. So I think you're going to have a lot of fun working with him. And I would encourage you to play around with Google Apps, because you guys are the early adopters, and I want to thank you for being a part of this program, because this is very, very helpful, and it's going to make the transition to Google Apps so much easier for your organization, because you guys volunteer to be a part of this. So thank you very much for that, and have a great rest of the day.